Sorry I was so late, dude. Hello and welcome. I hope you're all having a tremendously awesome, super start to the day. I hope you're smiling, having a smiling contest. Why not? Because life is too short not to. You got to just keep flowing, man. I'm almost not sure what the discussion is about today. Oh, yes, right. Divine proportions of being. It's written on the top. It's good to know that because this is really totally unscripted. Like, we literally come up with the idea like the night before, like, hey, what are we talking about? And then Chris mentioned something. I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Actually, I like what he was talking about. Let's do it, So that's why we call it unscripted, because it really is unscripted. I'm the BushWhisperer, local shaman.
I'm sure we'll branch into a few other things on the side too, as we always do. So
divine proportions leaves a pretty wide playing field.
Yeah.
Like what's not in divine proportion. So this is dear Chris Minor. He's a rock star. Oh yeah, baby, go and check out his music. It's pretty cool. Namaste, Mexico. Lovely to see you here. And Chris is an occultist and a philosopher and a thinker and a researcher, and he does a lot of interesting research into what's going on currently. Also, obviously embedded within Rudolf Steiner's thinking and other Rosicrucian type ideas, Western occultism, as well as all over the board, really. You know how it is, us lot. We stick our fingers into every hole. Sounds a bit wrong, doesn't it? Chris, the man who sticks his finger in every hole. Whoops.
Oh, man.
Welcome, dear brother. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm just glad to be here, and I'm hoping we have a productive discussion tonight. I hope everyone out there is doing well. How are you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm good, man. I am just... If I tell you how good I am, it's going to sound bad because I don't want to brag. That's how I feel. It's like you climb the mountain in the morning and you watch the sunrise and you feel like you're on something. Like you feel like you woke up and did these people used to rave about the breakfast of champions at a psytrance party, and that was like a line of this and one of these pills and one of these the chillum and like the breakfast of champions. Like you're never going to catch me doing that because my breakfast of champions is nature. So yeah, man, we've got a lovely discussion today. I think it's a really exciting one.
Absolutely,
and I think it's going to bring us to some lovely sort of content. Do you want to start? Is there anything you want to start with? Cranking? I mean, divine proportions.
I figure this is kind of your specialty, isn't it?
Well, I think it's all our specialties, but yeah, I mean, we can get into the crank athlon, as I like to call it.
And I don't know if we wanted to, if there was anything from last week or 2 weeks ago now, because last week I was out of town. If there was anything we had to finish discussing, I'm not sure there really was. I think we kind of wrapped up most of that discussion on what was it, astral. I mean, we can kind of get back into the astral stuff. I'm sure it'll come up.
Well, I think you can't have a conversation about divine proportions without the idea of astral stuff becoming a part of the conversation, as you say. It's rather sort of fundamental, is it not?
Exactly.
And I can't believe that I feel like such a Nimrod. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Nimrod. I am Nimrod, Nimroditarian. So I don't have the image I wanted to roll with, but it's all good because I've got something else. something potentially better. Have I got something better? Really? So okay, so let's get cranking. Divine proportions. I'm noticing I've got all these different tabs open, which is a little bit disturbing. I want to close them because I don't want to have like 1,000,000 tabs open. There we go. And for some reason, I seem to have opened Mozilla. Don't want Mozilla open. Excuse me while I close all of these tabs, just in case it gets in the way. For some reason, like I went into Telegram and I started opening tabs, and like it opened like 8 tabs. And I don't think I need all of those tabs open, especially not another engine I'm not using. So there we go. So yeah, divine proportions. I think like when we're looking at divine proportions, essentially we're starting at the beginning. And namaste and welcome to you guys. Welcome to all of you. Welcome, Vincent. How are you doing? I hope you're good. Hope you are like, winning the race, the human race as they call it. Welcome, Chaos. I hope you're good. You needed a restart. Cool. Nothing wrong with a good old fashioned restart. I restart my machine every once in a while to make sure she's behaving. Behave. And so divine proportions, I think we start at the beginning. We're starting with numbers and how numbers became concepts, and how concepts became phonetic representations, and how these became words, and how the sounds became words, and how the words carried the meaning of the concept that was originally an image. And the image was probably usually denoted to something related to to what we needed in life. And the reason I go back to numbers in the beginning, because numbers seem to be that point where that image of something that we needed about life was what I could call an experiential journey of being, right? Not so much of a rational thought, became a concept that we could represent. I think it started with numbers. With like,
the
how many of us are there?
the only argument I would have against that maybe would be thinking of if there was a source consciousness that was trying to know itself, essentially, would it have been initially having this conscious type of idea in numbers, or would the numbers have come afterward, after it had split, and then in order to develop the simulation type of dream we find ourselves into, then eventually know itself? Like, would the numbers have come after to basically create that realm that we find ourselves in here?
Yeah, well, I mean, if we're talking pre this realm, then you're completely right. I think. I'm just thinking about this realm.
This realm, okay.
As a beginning point. But I agree with you. I think that there was a time when we were transcendent, and we weren't necessarily in this realm.
Yeah.
And it's an abstract concept, but my gut stems. It's always has felt that way. And many of the great masters have always sort of affirmed this. It seems to be part of the doctrines, whether you're going with Blavatsky or Steiner or the Rosicrucianism or the Vedic story of the old golden age, where we were in tune with the divine and then the world changed. You see it everywhere. It's even in the Christendom as a reflection of Sophia's knowledge of the, of the gnosis. So I think that there's definitely something to that. And I think that you're right that when this universe was becoming constructed, it had to reflect this numerations. But I believe that the numerations is fundamental to all existence that we can experience, even the other planes. Because I think that it started off with a unity where there was no distinction. There was just one consciousness, and there was no distinctions of individuals. And then the distinctions between source, what we could call source, and what is not source, as in like inside and outside, had to become, the duad.
Yeah.
And from there still wasn't form. There was just the recognition of I am independent of my whatever I'm in.
Yeah.
Not necessarily
And
time.
this is like what I had sent you the other day when I was drawing out those that pentad of kind of separations. And I was like, well, if this is the source and there's 1, 1, it's almost like a Fibonacci type of sequence that you start getting when you take those, when you start dividing it in a way that kind of just logically would make sense as to what might happen.
No, I agree completely. And, I think that you're totally on it. Is that a noise? Is that kirk making an issue on my mic? Background noise.
I don't think so. I don't hear much.
Can you hear it?
No, I don't hear it right now. I don't know if anyone in the chat does, but...
Okay, no, because I've got buddies, like, I made them like a box that they can play in.
Oh, yeah, you were telling me last time about it. Yeah, no,
you're to pieces and they're having fun.
You're fine. I don't hear anything.
Good. As long as they're not disturbing the audio, that's cool, because I like them playing there, doing their thing. We've got 2 of them in the house now, because little Petunia was getting lonely. So I brought in Little Midnight with Petunia. They're both black bunnies. They're so sweet. And because she gets eaten by the other bunnies, man. I can't leave her out there with them. Mm-hmm. They're just too rough. People think of bunnies as cute creatures. Man, they are violent and despicably aggressive towards each other. So, yeah, I think what you were talking about is really quite fundamental. And I think it reflects the process that we're talking about, where the one projects outside of itself one.
Mm-hmm.
And then it recognizes, well, we are now 2. And when the 2 recognizes, well, because we are 2, there's a relationship between us. And we're going to define that relationship in terms of space. Now there's 3. And because there's this relationship of space where 1 has been separated into 2, we recognize the 2 potentials existing within this dynamic, which is that there are 2 existing within the space of 3. 3 being the space shared by the 2, the masculine, the feminine, and what they hold between them. And so this then becomes, when we compound it, because the mystic one is hidden. It's quite important to understand. The mystic one is hidden. It hasn't been reflected yet. We then have the 2 and the 3 coming together.
Yes.
To produce this 2 and 3. And now there's something between 2 and 3, which is 5. And then this process now needs to reflect itself below the veil. Because in this process, it has created a distinction. And that distinction is a separation that needs to be accounted for. And so that separation, as all good fractals do, fractalizes itself outside of itself. So we start again with 6, reflecting the 1.
Yep.
Harmony, Venus. That harmony, which is the sphere of art. Art, which is really what leads us to knowledge. Art is really about being. Being is really about knowing. So that 1 which holds the key to artistry. For example, this Rudraksha Mala. Okay, so these are 4-mukhi. This is Parabrahm, 4-mukhi. I've got a 4-mukhi Guru Dakshina, and I've got certain beads here that were designated with 4-mukhi in this particular one. In this particular one, I believe I have certain 4s. These are all 4s. I like 4s. 4s are about stability. 4s are about consistency. 4 is the number of the builder. 4 produces the analysis necessary to conceive of mystical thought, the root chakra. So 6 represents learning in a way, because the 6 is the Venus, the harmony of Venus. It's not the act of learning, it's what's necessary to learn. Because that harmony of consciousness seeks to find the harmony outside of itself. And in the process of finding the harmony outside itself, it aligns the inner harmony with the outer harmony. And so we're talking about not just learning like rote memorizing things. That's a mercurial trait. But the assimilation is part of this process that we're effectively talking about. Namaste, Katarina. I hope you're good. Hope you're well. Hope you're thriving. So the 6 becomes a reflection of the 1 below the veil. And then we now need to account for, once again, the process of the splitting of the 6. And so the splitting of the 6 becomes split. And that split then reflects outside itself, right? We've got the 7. We've got the 8. And the 7 and the 8 need to produce this reflection of harmony. And that reflection of harmony thus becomes a continuity that is brought together in 9, with 5 mirroring the process of all that is happening above and below. Mm-hmm. And then 5 needs to be reflected back into the macrocosm. And so we get 10, which is the beginning of the new scale of the Ennead, which the 1 then carries the vibration of the 5 into the next cycle as a new beginning point back to unity, back to the monad. And so 5 becomes the center around which all of these things revolve. So when you look at the Ennead, you see 5 in the center. 5 thus is Mercury. Mercury is thus the adventure. So to venture, you can't venture anywhere. You need a venture. You need somewhere for the venture to occur. And that somewhere for the venture to occur is bound by 4. Because you need the 4 directions. Now you've got somewhere to venture. But now you need to add to that venture, because 4 is stuck. 4 is immobile. 4 is like the rock underneath your feet. 4 is the number of the builder. The builder's number is 4. The Egyptians, they were all about the 4, the 4, the 4, the 4, the 4. And so 4 is the parabaram, is this the idea of looking in 4 directions and that ability to analyze, plan, and build. Because you need to analyze your circumstances in order to be able to strategize. Strategy, plans, building. But it involves me being stable, stuck here, and planning, strategize, building. What am I going to build? I'm not all over the show. That all of
this makes sense too, because of the 4, like in Japanese culture, or I think it's Chinese, might be both, where it means time, which also means death. But I mean, time is probably the more related to the builder, because in time you get Saturn, and that's probably more connected to this idea of the builder.
I'm glad you mentioned Saturn, because Saturn is 2 scales of 4. Mm-hmm. So when 4 becomes mobile, you see, let me share something with you guys, right? There's something pretty cool that I've started working on. And if you haven't seen it, then you got to look at it, because it rocks. It rocks like it rolls, and it rolls like it rocks. And when it rocks, it rolls, and it rolls and rocks. Okay, so here is the BushWhisperer Enneagram. I'm naming this the Universal Enneagram. It has nothing to do with any other Enneagram that you've ever seen before. There is no such Enneagram as this. This is the mystical Enneagram, the Enneagram that has been born from occult principles only. The other Enneagram you've all seen is the Enneagram that has been set up by psychologists in the 1970s who got it from another psychologist's ideas from the 50s, but it was really turned into the Enneagram you're all aware of in the 70s, and it's using the establishment's science of psychology that was popular at the time in order to conceive of an Enneagram. However, it's not coming from a perspective of occult thinking or the perspective of the mystical sciences as they exist. So here is an Enneagram I have facilitated, which is in alignment with Vedic numerology, Western numerology, Vedic astrology, Western astrology, It's aligning with Taoist numerology, and you understand why the builder relates to time and is the seed of time, but why it relates to not being alive. This is all in here. This even the Taoist numerology comes into play with this particular version of it. And obviously the sacred geometry is used in the correct fashion. So there's an origin. There's an origin that relates to every single numeration has an expression of the origin. Now, what's the first thing you notice when you look at this, brother? Like, okay, if you stare at this, allow your mind to focus on the orange, the feminine counterpart. Is there anything that your mind's picking up on a hint? Is there anything being hinted at your consciousness?
You have you have what is that, pentagons? 2 pentagons?
It's almost like you want to see a pentagon, isn't it? It's not there.
1, 2, 3.
Your mind tries to see a pentagon. When you look at it, it's gone. But then there's another one. And when you look at that one, it's gone. But it's a hint, right? And so the enneagram is literally, the geometry is showing us that 5 is the center.
And that's interesting too, because Crowley always had 555 as the age of Ma'at, or the Ma'ayan, or Aeon, and that's the balanced Mayon, or balanced Aeon, the Aeon of the, it would basically be the mother of judgment in a way.
Exactly. And that's Mercury. And so we see the alchemists once again holding a special place for Mercury. Mercury being that agent of transformation. And so now, okay, so we look at this. So here we got the fundamental. We're talking about the leader, right? That trailblazer, which is egocentric, Leo, the sun, right? Egocentricity. And number 1 is obviously the number of the sun. It's obviously the number of Leo. Number 1s are leaders. They want to go out there and pioneer. They want to do their own thing. They're all about me. They tend to not be the best listeners. They tend to not be that sensitive to other people's thoughts and feelings necessarily, because they just focus on themselves. And so this is that 1 where there's just me. Then there's 2, the moon, the empath. This is where we become sensitive. This is where 1 splits off and you recognize, hey, I'm not alone. There's 2 of us. Wow, maybe I should listen to the other. Empathy. Empathy is the power of the lunar. The lunar is engaging with the unconscious. So there's a personal empathy to, well, like what's happening on my unconscious. I was explaining to my child this morning that part of him is asleep. Part of him is awake. That part of me that's asleep, I can relate to that as another part of me. There's 2 within me. And so the empathy has got to do with sublimation of the moon's power. So this then becomes the expression of optim, options, optimist, to optimize, to give option, as in like there's not just 1, but there's 2. But now the 2 need to be brought into a paradigm to optimize the 2 potentials. And you optimize the 2 potentials by working together. So 3 is born. This 3 then becomes the definition of space. This is like, I relate this to the Jupiterian, because Jupiter is 3's number is Jupiter. It's the number of good luck. You say 3 is a good luck number. If you do something 3 times, it's going to bring you good luck. It's going to manifest. It's a highly expansive number. The expansion of Jupiter is there. Now 4 is where that expansion meets its limits. 4 is stuck. 4 is the builder, what we were talking about before. 4 can't change. Now, in Taoist numerology, you need chi to be flowing. If chi isn't flowing, you're not living anymore, right? So that flow of chi is inhibited by the principle of 4. So 4 automatically leads us to not being alive, because it blocks the flow of chi. Anything that blocks the flow of chi represents not being alive. So that unaliveness that's referenced in the Taoist cosmology, and why it relates to the number 4, is because it's the building number, and that which builds crystallizes. And when we become crystals, we're not adapting, but time and space is in a constant state of flux, and we need to be adapting. So how does this become completed? The adventurer is the next evolution of this stuckness. And that adventurer, which is Mercury, represents change and transformation. That part within ourselves which wants to adventure out, wants to learn new ideas, wants to share new ideas. the adventure of thought, the adventure of mind, the adventure of going out. Travel, communication is an adventure. It's an adventure of new thoughts. Somebody else is bringing a new thought to you. It's an adventure of possibility within your consciousness. So the adventurer represents that aspect, which is the communicator, the the actor in a sense, in a way, going out, having fun, adventure. Then we have artist. The artist is 6th, Venus. Venus rules the arts. This is traditional. So I've not really changed anything here. I'm just using traditional numerology, which is universal. 6 is the artist, represents the harmony of Venus. And that is effectively what tames the adventurer, because the adventurer can be wild. It can go out there and it just wants to go on this wild, mutable adventure. The artist brings it into a harmony so that the adventure and the builder, which is stuckness and concrete crystallization, and the adventurer, which is like basically breaking the bounds of the crystal, so that they aren't at war with each other, because 4 and 5 can be at war with each other. 6 steps in to produce the harmony, reflecting the 1. Now you can see the 1 and the 6 obviously are opposite sides of the circle, and so they're bringing this sort of energy of each other into being. And you can see as the corners relate there, to each other. So it's 2 octaves as a shift of the feminine energy from artist to workaholic, right? Workaholic to leader. You see how that little triangle or that 100-degree angle works. And so the artist is the harmony. Now, the artist is also producing that gateway to the mysteries. Venus's occult title is the gateway to the mysteries. So the artist is in tune with looking at the unconscious forces that are moving through them and expressing them on the outer layer. So the adventurer is expressing thoughts and ideas. The artist's expressing emotions, more subtle things. The unconscious is being tapped into, as well as the conscious, by the artist. Then we go to the mystic. The mystic is now the artist evolved within the next level of actually going into, where does that art come from? Where does those subtle emotional intelligence currents come from? And starting to delve into through the door of the mysteries, the gateway of the mysteries represented by Venus. That's the mystic moving through that. And that also represents, as you can see here that I've put here, it's the south node. This is Vedic thought. And also it is reflecting of Neptune, because Neptune is all about the psychic abilities, the psychic world, the inner dreams. So these 2 principles are being wrapped up and bound in that 7th principle of the mystic, which are on that inner journey. It's all about sort of asceticism to a sense, but not necessarily the discipline. When that mystic discovers this, they then realize they need ascetic practice. That's Saturn. Saturn is the harsh reality. Saturn is like, well, you've seen a bit of the mysteries. Go and fast, sit in silence, sit in meditation for many, many hours. Feel the pain in your body of sitting in a posture and just concentrating. Feel the boredom, transcend the pain, transcend all of this listness, all these thoughts and these emotions that want to get in your way. Tame them. So you're now taking all the strengths of 4. So the 8 uses all of the concrete crystallization power potential of 4, and it becomes its sort of bludgeoning tool. But
would the 4 be
dynamic.
Would the 4 be a Taurus?
Yeah, I would say 4 is a tauric expression. Now look here. When we see the masculine perspective, 6 is what rules Taurus, right? But it's the feminine side of 6 that rules Taurus. So we see that here we have the optimist, which is connected to that Venus energy. But here, when we look at the feminine, we see Taurus and the builder are fundamentally connected. So Taurus is that part which is looking back, where
which would be like a magnetic sort of energy too, almost.
Exactly. And so Taurus is reflecting the 4 through the artist's eyes. So Taurus is when the artist looks at the builder and I want to be the builder. But Taurus is coming from 6 because Taurus likes to enjoy good things. The artist enjoys having a beautiful room. The artist enjoys having lovely sweet grapes and having sensual stuff around. It's all about the arts, sensuality. Taurus is very sensual. 4 in itself in its pure form isn't essentially that. 4 in its own pure form is a little bit more harsh. It's just discipline without application of the discipline. The discipline becomes applied when 4 becomes 8, because 8 then compounds that 4 and shows the 4 that you can have that dynamic process, and the dynamic process of putting 4 into practice becomes 8. So 8 then becomes the workaholic. It's all about money. Number 8 rules money. Number 8 rules success. Number 8 rules fame. Number 8 rules building a empire for your friends and your family so that you can protect. 8 is very protective. You want to get resources to keep your people happy and safe. And 8 also, you see, points back at the artist with the orange. So you want to provide all the artist's requirements for your family with 8, so that 4 can come into maturation in 8. And so 8 is then this power of that. I've named it the workaholic. It could be a different word, but I think in this day and age, workaholic represents somebody who's totally focused on their career, who defines themselves by their career, defines themselves by the success generated in their career, and accolades and success is really important to them, and money is important to them, and resources, prudence, all of these things come with the number 8. Then 8, having found that worldly success, which is represented by the number 8, which is what 4's mission is, because 4 is building something and 4 is building towards that worldly success, but it's stuck. It's unable to put it into motion. 8's able to put into motion all of 4's hidden desires. And this then comes.
Hey, Franklin, you're popping a little bit with your mic.
Sorry, brother.
No problem. Just want to let you know.
Man.
a little hot, just a little hot, but it's good besides that. I would say just maybe down a little bit, but you're good. I didn't want to stop you.
Is that better?
Yeah, I think so.
Sound a bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I start pointing my face in funny directions, I think. So then 9 becomes the completion of this cycle. And so that's the activist. And the reason 9 is the activist is because 9 is the end of this ride. Now we need transformation. So 9 is Mars. Mars finds the beginning of transformation in Scorpio with the card of death from the tarot. And this begins the cycle of transformation, which is then found its maturity in Aries. Aries is now where that transformation is going to go, what it's going to create, the beginning of the next cycle. Hence, the Emperor is sitting on his throne and he has the ball in his hand, the whole world. And he has the wand, the life wand, and the ball in his hand, and he's putting that life force to start the next cycle. So the activist represents that process between Scorpio and Aries, where the transformation is coming into being. And Aries is that I'm going to take my head forward with that transformation and stamp it into the world with my hooves, and carry it forward. The transformation that started with Scorpio in that sublimative state of Mars. And then that completion of the activist, which is why you'll see activism is like probably one of the highest ideals. Ideology relates to Mars. Mars is very perfectionist oriented. They're very ideological in their sense.
Still popping, brother. Still popping, brother.
Ooh. I wonder if that's
maybe turn down a tad. Because you're very loud, actually. I don't think you need as much gain. Because I could hear you great.
Is that better?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, maybe it was. StreamYard changed their settings a while ago because it used to be just right. Interesting. So, yeah, let me know if it pops again.
Yeah, if anyone hears it in the chat still, let us know, too.
And then the activist is the idealist. So like here's a basic structure of the numerology as it relates, and these numbers I then became expressed as alphabets. So the leader, the sun, is where all the prana comes from. All the life force comes out of the sun. Hence the green things need to salvage the sugar, which is crystallized life force, so that all metabolism can happen for all living beings. And so it comes through the sun. So the sun is where, and this is the association between Aries and the sun, which is why you'll often find in some traditions, Mars is in Tifareth, interestingly enough, even though it represents harmony. And there's this very tight association between Mars and the sun, sometimes interchangeable. Sometimes in magic work, people will use the metal of iron instead of gold, which you would expect.
I mean, and this is reflected in the story of the biblical story of Christ, the Son, being what is it? He rises in Aries as I think he's either born in Aries or no, he's born in December, but he rises again in the spring after being crucified in Aries.
Exactly, exactly, brother. That's that little astrotheology coming into being. Good observation, man. That's something I want to map. I did map into 4 and 7. They're very special. So 4 represents the autumn, right? No, sorry. 4 represents the not the autumn, the spring, and 7 represents the autumn, and 4 represents the sunrise, the morning, and 7 represents the sunset, because 4 is a reflection of 1.
Oh, that's
so in
interesting.
Vedic numerology, you can interchange the 4 and the 1. They do use the 4 when it comes to solar operations in Vedic work and in the West. If you look up the number 1 and 4, it should say to you that they are solar numbers. But 4 is actually in its true form Uranus. But Uranus is related to the sun. And Sun and Uranus share vibrational frequency in the same way that Neptune and Venus share a vibrational frequency. Because Venus is all about enjoying the good things in life.
Well, this
Harmony.
would also make sense in that same way that I was just mentioning the rising of the Christ in Aries, and then you have the Aries related to the Taur or Taurus or 4, and there's a connection there because you have the electrical sort of energy that creates time being the Taurus field that we're finding ourselves in, that part of the dielectricity. And the magnetic, which would then be the 7, would be the destructive aspect of it that would then sucks it back into the basically a center point of stillness before it restarts.
Yeah, I like that. The center point of stillness. That's the 0 in the center.
Because there can be no life in stillness, so the life comes from the the life is actually created by a destructive force, and that destructive force eventually collapses on itself.
Yeah, Vincent. Every Hebrew letter has a numeric value. This is why I've started here explaining that the Aleph relates to the prana, the life force. And so that ox that is pulling the life force of Aleph is coming through the sun, the first point. That's how life force comes to earth, through the power of the sun. And then Bet is the receptivity, which represents the house, right? The house represents receptivity. Like you can bring stuff into the house, and the house holds what has been brought into it. You put your possessions in the house. It's receptivity of the moon. And Jimal represents the expansiveness. Going out into the desert on a camel is the expansiveness of the consciousness, expanding the consciousness towards deeper mysteries. That which was a mystery before becomes known and seen through the power of Jimal. And then you see Dalet, the builder, right? The door through which you can manifest things, the number 4. That door of manifestation, which is Dalet, represents number 4. And Vav is the adventurer. Vav is what connects, what can be brought through the door. And it connects that to the artist, Zain. Zain is the sword that can cleave into things. And so that you can cleave into things in order to find what's hidden within inside it, to cleave it into 2, to observe the hidden things and bring the hidden things out, the artistry of life. And so you see there's this relationship here where there's this mystic number and the non-mystic number. So 6 holds the seed of Mercury. Mercury's true number is 5, but we see this reflected in the 6th, in the letter. And then we see the mystic. So the mystic, Chet, that's relating to the sign of Cancer. Cancer is holding the moon's potential, the unconscious, the ability to travel into the subconscious. And so Chet then becomes an expression of a mystical thought, which is why the chariot is binding Chet, and you see all of the paraphernalia, the 2 horses, the 2 beings pulling the chariot. That chariot represents the Merkaba, right? The Merkaba is the chariot. The Merkaba is how the mystic is able to gain mystical insights, traveling out of the body. This is why that the Chet is related to the chariot, because the chariot is that body which leaves the body, and goes out and sees mystical things and comes back in. And then we see Chet becoming Aleph, Bet, Gimal, Dalet, He, Vav, Zain, Chet. So as we progress through all of this, we see that there's a, how can I put it? There's an octave shift from one to the next, and every octave shift carries it. So 7 becomes how 7 actualizes itself. And so the actualizing process of what is 6 is actualized as 7. The actualizing thing of what is 7 becomes 8. And so these numerations are like carrying like a chain. So the Aleph of 1 is expressing through Bet, but the 1 of Aleph is actually carrying the seed of 9 in it. And that 9 is the completeness of all stuff, of all things. And so Aleph is what transforms and changes the entire universe, because it carries 9, and it's the ambassador of 9, but we see it expressed as 1. The Bet, the ambassador of 1, which is expressed as 2. The Gimal, the ambassador of 2, that is expressed as 3. Now we see why the number 2 is the high priestess, the second trump of the tarot, not the third. But from the numerology of the actual alphabet, it's 3. And so this is why we come back and we say, okay, so now we see that Chet is actually 8 in its astrological form, but in its mystic form, it's 7. And so this is why the 7th card is expressing the major arcana, but the major arcana version of this archetype, which is 7, is being expressed as 8. So Chet then gets expressed in Saturnial places, but the Saturnial expression is the mystic. It's the mystic core, which is the mystic 7, that Merkaba is found in Saturn. Why in Saturn? Why the workaholic? Because it's that hard work of training that liberates that body of light so that we can travel out of our consciousness. And so the same thing can be seen for why Zain, which is actually 7, is carrying the artist's brush into the mystic place. And so there's this sort of step up between mystic number and number that is not very well understood in Western occultism. Would that be a fair idea?
You know what I would think would help eventually is if you did almost like kind of like I sent you, how I started to send you that little really rough idea of like the pentad and how consciousness might have divided in that way. But if you ever did a chart of this with the numbers basically coming down and branching off into each other, so people could see the relationship that you're trying to say, that aren't as familiar with the Vedic system or the language being used with certain numbers and stuff like that. And you could see how the 6 and 5 may be related to the 6 and 7, 7 and 8. You could actually like draw this either parallel out left to right, or just up to down.
I'm going to put it on the enneagram. And in Vincent, like Vincent says, Chet.
Well, the only problem with the Enneagram is that eventually, like for someone like me especially, I start getting lost in the connections. That's why you might want to also do one that's just like goes across or down with the same connection, but just so you could like, I don't know, everyone in the chat, let them know what you think as well. Because it might just be able to see that some of the things you're saying that are on the Enneagram, and then almost as like a second chart, like, oh, if you can't tell what I'm saying here, this is why the 8's connected to the 7, or the 7's connected to the 8. This is why the 1's connected, and it's like something like a flow chart almost.
The tarot is the key. This is the tarot is the key. Like Vincent's saying, technically speaking, Het is 8, but when we start looking at the hieroglyphic from whence Het arises, it's the 7th tarot card.
Okay.
So the 7th tarot trump is the Chariot, but the alphabetic numeration is 8. So the tarot becomes the key to that little dog is just becoming so. But I think you're right. Maybe a linear chart. The problem that I have with linear charts is that we start to commit them to memory, and we get fixed ideas. Where the circular motion holds that possibility of.
I would make the circular your main, and then almost have a linear chart as like a cheat sheet key, kind of, if people need to go back, and if they're not getting something. You know what I mean? If you're like, if you're not seeing this connection, here's the linear chart. Now let's go back and now see if you see it on the circular chart.
I almost would like to do it as a golden spiral rather than a straight line, a spiral.
There you go. That might be cool.
And that straight line is a spiral that goes towards origin.
That might be
that's
cool.
Essentially what the Enneagram is. It's a spiral, but we're representing it as a circle.
Almost like you're like unwind the way it's represented and put it back into like that spiral form. Kind of like I feel like what's his name did this when he made Walter Russell. Kind of like you see like these spirals that he has when he's doing his periodic table.
Give me 1 minute while I let this dog that's making so much noise. I have to go and call him. He's scratching the door. He's going to scratch the
like
paint off.
3D Enneagram, exactly. But yeah, I know. I know. I'm sure everyone in the chat's familiar with the Walter Russell work on the periodic table, and he breaks it into octaves, but he also breaks it. It almost is like a spiral, or that's been unwound. Kind of like even Santo Spinaci used to do this with his astrological chart, where he would make it like an S, and he would have the daytime, or the upper half of the circle on one side, and then the lower half of the astrological circle on the other side, on the right side of the page, and that would be like the nighttime. But it could also be the planets that were more, I think, magnetically based on the bottom and more electric related on top. I think that just might help people kind of grasp some of the concepts that Franklin's throwing out here in the future. Because I know I get twisted a little bit with all these beautiful symmetric designs on top of the Enneagram.
Yeah, man. So I think that like the spiral, I wanted to do the Enneagram as a spiral.
Yeah, almost
I really wanted to do it. But I think that this geometry shows us there's two sets of geometries here. There's the Merkaba in there, right? But the Merkaba spinning. So there's the third triangle reflecting the alignment shifting of the positive and the negative. And it's showing the harmonic resonance between the positive and the negative. So it basically is a spinning set of triangles, right? Spinning one way, and then the other one is revolving the other way. Sort of like going back to the source and coming from the source as an idea. And
which reminds me of like the torus and the hyperbole, like the hourglass shape and the torus around it. I mean, you can pretty much put the Merkaba in between both of those, like in between that, and have those counteracting Merkaba or triangles that are kind of weaving, or what? They're not triangles. They're more like what is it? pentagrams that are kind of weaving, and they're both making the electrical and the magnetic force.
Absolutely.
And that's like what the Hebrew kind of star kind of does.
Yeah, it's very interesting because they found it when they look at. So now we're getting into like the proportions of being. So according to what they've sort of been able to isolate with their images from CERN and other CERN type exercises, but I think CERN gave them the best sort of images of quarks are made out of what they call gluons.
Basically, the smallest particles are the Merkaba, right? In a Merkaba shape. Isn't that what they're saying?
Yeah, basically, when they look at the gluons, they notice that they are spinning in different directions like this. And that there's 3 attached spinning in one way and 3 attached spinning in the other way. And they look like 3 spinning little triangles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one spinning triangle and one spinning triangle spinning in different directions. And so that sort of represents. Now, Venus is interesting that its polarity is reversed to all of the other spins, right? All the planets spinning in one way, Venus in another direction. This is why Venus is considered the artist planet and the gateway to the mysteries. Welcome, namaste. I hope you're all good. Does a circle have a starting point? Yes, the circle has an origin, because truly there's no such thing as a circle.
It's not supposed to be a circle, right? It's supposed to be like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a spiral, like a 3D spiral, like a cone almost, isn't it?
I like that Catherine mentions Uranus. Uranus is what they call one of the outer planets. Some people consider it one in our solar system. Some people consider it outside of the solar system. But you're right. Uranus is the other one that has got that spin. And so Uranus has got this like really powerful relationship with Venus. And this is where the mystery is touching. Like Uranus then reflects with Neptune. And Neptune together with Uranus create kind of a polarity, if you will, the same kind of polarity that we see being created with Venus, the concept of the artist and the builder, because they are like at odds with each other, right? The builder wants to do things like this, like that. That's the right way to do it.
Almost like the engineer. You could think of the builder as an engineer and an artist. Like an engineer wants to make the thing that the artist usually will design.
Well, the artist wants to make something that's never been made before. There are no principles. The builder wants to know, I want to make it like this. This is how it's done. I follow these rules. The artist is, screw the rules. I'm just going to like dig inside myself and see what comes out. And so then when the artist brings something out that's worth making, then the builder goes, hey, that's good. I'm going to use that. But I'm going to use it exactly the way you did it. That's the way it's done. There's no deviation kind of concept, like, because there can be no deviation when you. So numbers are ruled by 4 in a sense. And 8 becomes the way in which the numbers, the numerations are put into context, which is why the ancient Egyptians had such a big thing. Exactly, like Neptune is a higher octave of Venus. Exactly, Katrina. And this is reflected here when we see the artist and the mystic being. A mystic is a kind of an artist, in a sense. In the same way that an artist is what the adventurer becomes. In the same way that the adventurer is what the builder becomes. Because sooner or later they get tired of all the rules and they want to go out and find new things. And the builder is what the optimist becomes. Because the optimist is just expanding endlessly. And the builder is like, no, I want to contain this expansion. And the optimist is expanding beyond the potential of the inner realm. The inner realm becomes so saturated with going into the emotional field that Jupiter wants to expand beyond it. And then that contraction, all the contracts of Saturn, contracts are about work. I've got a contract with you. We've got a contract. Contracts are what you've got to fulfill, right? So wherever there's a contract, there's work to be done. That's what contracts represent. So this is why I like the contraction of Saturn. This is why I've chosen the word workaholic, because it's the closest word I can get in positivity And everybody thinks of workaholic as a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Without workaholics, we wouldn't have good doctors. A surgeon is somebody that works in the middle of the night to save lives, right? They're workaholics. They have to be. Somebody has to be.
I want to share
Otherwise,
something.
you get in a car accident. Who's going to save you?
I want to share something really fast from Ken Wheeler that I think also might help kind of explain this idea of the spiral or the vortex.
While you're getting that up, I want to talk about the center of the wheel being Pluto. And I just want to say this. Vincent, you mentioned it. The plow being towed. The plow toe. The plow toe was the center of our galaxy, was always considered as being the plow, is where that's our axis mundi. And the axis mundi is the center of 0 point energy from our perspective and our proportion of where we are within our galactic wheel. So the plow, Pluto, is the plow towing the rest of us around itself. This is why Pluto is at the center of the wheel. Why in numerology in India and other places, Pluto represents the number 0. Wow. Let's take a look, brother. What you got?
So this is all rights to Ken Wheeler, who's a really smart guy. If you haven't watched him, Theoria Apophasis is his YouTube name. I think there might be some numbers after it, but you could find him just by searching that now, because I know they changed it. But I think just a lot of his diagrams kind of give the idea of the spiral that you were sort of mentioning, that actually is what the Enneagram would be if you pull it out from the circle that it's in. I really like this. I mean, this is obviously the Taurus and the hyperbole in between. But yeah, I just think it kind of can make people kind of see this sort of cone vortex sort of shape that I think both of us were kind of getting at. And this is basically the dielectric. I mean, this is the magnetic and electric field that creates the reality we find ourselves in, one being destructive, one being creative. This is the hyperbole in the center, and this is the still point. So yeah, I just wanted to show that really fast. I think he has a lot of good stuff that you can see reflected as above, so below. I mean,
wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Also beautiful.
Yeah.
Like nature.
Mm-hmm.
She gives it all to us, doesn't she? She doesn't hold back.
What's interesting too is I think you could start to see where some of the owl
wow.
This is the electric field of a circuit, and he's like basically showing the magnetic field, I think, here. And these are the lines of force. And yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of where the owl symbolism might come from. But yeah, he has a lot of good stuff on his page. I mean, geez, this is going to be getting into stuff that we're probably not at yet.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, there's a lot here. If you want this link, just check out his first link on any of his YouTube videos. I believe this one is called the Energy Unification article. So
it's probably kenwheeler.com, isn't it?
Well, just go to his YouTube, and under any video he gives these out for free.
What is his YouTube thing
it's,
again?
Here, I will type it in the chat.
If you could put it into the comments chat, not into the private chat.
Yeah, Theoria Apophasis is the name of it. I'm not going to do the link because I don't know if the link will come up unless it will. I don't know. Can I link his YouTube? Will that work?
Try and link his YouTube in here for those that don't know him. I mean, most people here probably know him, but just that @ sign, if you can't, I should be able to find him on my YouTube because I'm sure he's there somewhere. I haven't really watched much of his work. It's come up, and his work is brilliant when it does come up because he really is.
Yeah, that's his new. It used to be at Theoria Apophasis, but now it's at Ken Theoria Apophasis.
Right. Huh, they've logged me out of my YouTube. Isn't that nice, huh?
Really?
Yeah.
No, I don't know if that link will work or not, but there you go. I could still hear you.
Oh. Was I making a noise in the mic?
No, I mean, I don't know if you're not on are you still on StreamYard? Which is weird because you're not in the video. Oh, did they stop the video?
Oh, that's so strange.
Oh no, we're still going live. Maybe it's because it's live on my channel still. Oh,
so no. When you took that image off, it went to a blank page for some reason. Not sure. It doesn't normally do
weird.
that.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, that's fine.
So there we go. For everybody, there it is. Go into the chat and just click it. That'll take you to his place. Good old Ken Wheeler. Shout out to the dude.
He's great. He's a really, really nice guy too. If anyone ever wants to try to talk to him in his chats or anything, he always pretty much will give you a response.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, smart guy.
He definitely, I would say, like the little that I've seen of him, every time I've seen him talk, I've been like, wow. I've never ever seen him and I've not been a bit like, wow. Like, yeah, you do get some people that do really bring through a lot of pertinent information.
Yeah. No, he's great. He's great, and he predicted a lot of stuff that became true after he predicted it on YouTube, like hydrogen being made from high-powered point source lasers, basically, like how I guess it would be like almost like scalar light or high energy light. High energy light could create hydrogen, matter, and they proved this like way after he said it.
Okay, so here we go, right? Hydrogen is number 1 on the enneagram, relates to the sun, relates to light. Of course, you're going to pull hydrogen out of light because
absolutely.
It is light. It is 1.
Yeah.
So hydrogen is 1, is light. I'm going to map the periodic table through this as well.
Because we're all light. I mean, everything is light. That's the thing,
man.
And everything is just a modulation of light and sound, basically. I mean, it's a modulation of the ether, which is all coming from the source. And then you modulate the ether, and it becomes either sound, light, or then matter, depending on pressure and pressure, temperature, and one other thing. I can't remember. Maybe speed, pressure, temperature. I don't know if I want to say speed, but you get the idea. Frequency, pressure, temperature.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at the 7 principles of Hermes there, and vibration. Everything is vibration. So light is a manifestation of vibration. And then rhythm. The rhythm of that vibration is what designates one thing to be a different thing. And this is Saturn now, once again. So now we're looking at that number 8. So when I look at number 8, I see rhythm. I see the principle of rhythm here, and rhythm being a reflection of vibration. And so the vibration is what builds. So rhythm is a reflection of vibration, which is 6, which is the harmony produced between movements, which we experience as sound. And that is what builds. And due to the building of the substance, we end up with an internal and an external potential, right? The separation of 2. And this is what takes us to the completion, the ionization. And so when I think of 9, I think of Mars, I think of ions. Ions are what I represent as number 9. 9 represents ionization. And ionization is what produces any change in chemistry, right? It is essentially ions that if in any form of chemistry that is the agent of transformation. So those movement or shifting ion potential is what changes matter. So when you're changing hydrogen to something else, you got to play with the ions. If you can move the ions of something, you can change matter. Basically, it's an interesting concept.
Yeah, he
And
has
that's all
here
about
that
polarity.
all particles are capacitance threshold light, or i.e. hydrogen that has reached a capacitance threshold.
And so on that enneagram, it suggests that the number 1, which is hydrogen, from that stems helium,
Yep.
right?
Everything
And
apparently comes from hydrogen.
Yeah. And then from helium comes, and so on and so on and so on, until you're getting right down to gold as being a reflection of this. And so that's very interesting. I mean, I was just looking at some of the periodic things with the enneagram. Oh, by the way, for those of you that like this enneagram, I'm busy working on it. I only started working on it. This enneagram is being born with this Navratri, and happy Navratri to everybody. It's the 4th day. Is it the 4th day of Navratri? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yes, it's the 4th day of Navratri. So tomorrow we get to that all-important midpoint 5, right? That very important day of Navratri. And 8 is where the work gets done. 8 is where the work gets done. That's where evil is vanquished. 9 is where the transformative potential of the work having been done on the 8th day comes into being, reflecting the goodwill that takes us into the next cycle of 9. So we are now in the day of the builder of Navaratri, which is the day of crystallization. And crystallization also relates to gathering power, gathering the power that can become the mutating influence of 5, mutability, so that the harmony of 6 can lead to the revelation of 7, in order for the work of 8 to be done, to reach that crystallization point of 9, the activity, the activist having done their work. So this is a work in progress. I'm going to be doing a whole series of videos about this. For those of you that are interested, this is an enneagram that I think the world needs. The reason I started doing it was I noticed the other enneagrams numerology wasn't always on point. The human consciousness has the ability to, and this is interesting, I think, when it comes to the divine proportions of being. All things are connected to all other things. There's this infinite web of connections, and we can see connections between all things. But some connections are primary and fundamental, and other connections are secondary, and other connections are tertiary. But our consciousness, because of the nature of our ability to anthropomorphize, we will project onto our reality and receive from our reality anything and everything we need to, in order to fulfill the mandate of learning and knowledge. Though I think that when it comes to people that are doing practical occult work, this enneagram will be of more use, because it can be used. For example, you cast a circle, right? You wanna build a space of power in your home to do sacred spiritual work. You create one of these for yourself, and you plonk yourself in the center. That's where you do your work. You see? So you want to cast a circle. This is how you cast a circle. You follow these nine points, and you ensure that you maintain each of these 9 elements within your circle. So this is like more to do for practical work than just for ideas. And a lot of the things that I distrust about the other enneagram is because it was made by psychologists. I'm just so doubtful of anything that comes from a university, man. Is that a blind side that I've got?
No, see, I like I said to you before, when you were telling me about how you wanted to do your version of it, and I was talking about, see, I think the benefit in having Gabe's version is because that's what the social engineers actually use. So there's a predictive power in it just because they've been using it forever. And you can see these events are playing out that's why like Gabe's able to find these patterns in events that are happening throughout history. And because they're using that sort of system that's been in use forever by them, but that's the system they gave us. And it's also, it may, as like you're saying, be incomplete and incorrect, and it may be out of balance, which is why they use it. Because that's part of their chaos sort of magic.
That's very interesting. And it always bugged me that the origin wasn't being celebrated, because it's not a spiral. This is a spiral. This can be drawn as a spiral. It's got to have everything's got to be an extension of the origin. Otherwise, it's not a spiral. If it's not a spiral, it doesn't hold life. Phi is life. Life is phi. Phi is the expansion of the spiral. It's that sacred relationship. What we were talking about: 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, and this expansiveness. And interestingly enough, then we get to 34, right? Is it 34? Yeah, 21, 34. Now 34. What's 34's mystic number? 33. See? So 33 is the mystic number. So now we're going back to these. Understanding this relationship between number and mystic number is such a powerful tool. The life of pi, I like that. But I was talking about phi specifically.
Phi, yeah. And this is something Wheeler also does in the Aurea Sapientia, I think is the paper he calls it. It's like a handwritten thing. And this is where he gets into the geometry of water. And it's a triangular sort of, I guess it's an equation that he sets up using some sort of Pythagorean understanding he has, where he's using 1 over phi. It's basically, there's like the 1 and then phi and then 1 over phi. And he gets to how this is the secret of the Pythagoreans. And it's way too complex for me to explain. But basically, the secret is apparently the angular construction of H2O, of the H2O molecule, because this is actually apparently what allows our bodies to act like the radio for our souls, which are like a signal that's being picked up, and water is basically what allows that to happen. So it's almost like a consciousness sort of receiver.
Okay, so let me. I think I know what you'll be talking about here. So let's break into that. Let's go into that a little bit, because I think there's a lot of value here, especially with regards to what we're talking about. And once again, shout out Ken Wheeler. Obviously, he's done this work. He's done all the work, hasn't he? Bless his heart. So share this instead. We should be seeing, voila. So here we go. So I'll break this down as best as I can.
Yeah, he has that on the sheet in the lower left-hand corner.
We're talking about the pentagram. So the numbers as it relates to the pentagram, obviously, here we have 180 degrees, and here we have 108 degrees.
108.
And here we have 72 degrees. So the 72 of the etheric plane and the 108 of the astral plane. So now when we look at this picture, we can see that here we have this 72, and 72 is 144. Do you think that's by accident? Not at all. And then, of course, we have a 36. So we've got 36, 36, 36, 36, 36. Obviously, the enneagram. Beautiful. 36 is 1/3 of 108. 108 is here. 44 is obviously, sorry, did I say 44? 36? 72. And 72 making 72 is a quinence. And when you've got two quinences within this triangle, you got the 144. Now we see where the 144 comes from that we hear about, which is such an important, which happens to be 12 scores 12. Not by accident. It's got to do with the macrocosm. It's got to do with the way that the etheric plane 72 angelic system, which is the 64 angels and the 7 archangels and the ruler of the archangels, the 72, rule over matter through the etheric plane. And that is reflected as the 144. Hence, the 144 is the 12 score 12. And when we break that down, we end up with the 12 signs of the zodiac, which is the Mazloth, which is the symbol of the macrocosm. Right. Then we've got the 108. Now, the 108, we can see it here. This particular triangle happens to have this 108 degrees, which is really quite interesting, because that means that we've got 72 degrees, which is 36 and 36. So you see here, we've got a very interesting triangle. Here we've got a triangle.
Check out what I just sent you in the private chat if you want to open that up and go to the lower left side, and you'll see exactly what you're talking about, that triangle, just with some numbers added to it.
I will. But I don't know whether he's going to bring this point up, because this is something that people don't normally look at. This triangle is an inversion of this triangle. I don't know if you can see that. So this is the etheric triangles, 72 and 72. This is the astral triangle, 108. So 108, and it becomes 72. This is 72 and 72, and this becomes 36. So 36 becomes half of 72. So there's a scale of 4 to 1, 1 to 4. The golden ratio of 4 is being held within this particular image here of this triangle. Now this one, we've got 108 and we've got 72. This is a different, this is a ratio that's now breaking into that mystical astral side of things. Let's take a look what you've sent us. So
down on that second page, you'll see in the lower left corner exactly what the layout you're kind of giving. This was when he tried to fit everything on 2 pages for everyone.
Right.
And there's that.
Okay, there he's looking at the different. Now, from a Paleo Hebrew perspective, that would be the Inri with the Shin added into it, which then becomes Joshua. Yeshu is how they like to pronounce it, but I believe that Yeshu is Isaiah. Isha was what we see. He was named when he got to Egypt. India, where they claim to have the resting place of his body. Isha, which is an embodiment of Isaiah, and Isaiah is obviously the prophet that was supposed to be reborn as the Savior. So here we have this pretty much this idea being reflected at us as well. And let's see if we can get a good zoom of this.
And if you notice, it's the same sort of geometry that you'll find in the water molecule in H2O.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and it's also, it's like I think it's 3 of those triangles.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because then that's reflecting back at 6, right?
Well, that's why he even has like that pentad in the above. If you go up a little bit to that, he has H, like the 2 bonds right above that wheel on the page. And he has like, he has the 1 and 1 and the 2, 3, and he has 5 life underneath it. And he's saying basically this is the dipole antenna of the mind. Like this is what basically is an antenna for consciousness.
Yeah, I find that really interesting, because now when we start to look at this, we see like why it's so fundamental, why it's such a key and important thing that we've got this 8 plus 1 plus 1. So we got the 8, we got Saturn, and we got the sun, and then we got the sun. Yeah. Now this is 100 degrees, not 108 degrees, which is quite interesting, because that differentiation then between 8.
But you have 108 degrees in there. I believe in your Enneagram, right in the center, won't you? I think if you go back to your Enneagram, you'll find 108 degrees, I think. Or is that going to be wider? Or at the bottom center of the two blue? Like right underneath the midpoint, where the two blue legs, like the two blue legs of that lower.
That's looking like 108 degrees, doesn't it?
Yeah, like right. I mean, I can't really show it because my mouse won't go where I want to go, but it would be between. If you go like dead center,
we're talking
or would it be over between the 5? What is it? The 4 and the 5 and the blue angle between the 4 and the 5 at the top of the triangle there. I mean, it's not really a triangle, but the top of the.
Talk about that.
Right there in the center. That dead center point, that angle on the outside.
That's quite interesting.
Which it might be the same on the other side as well.
I think it's 100 degrees. But no. You're right. It's definitely not 100 degrees.
Right there, right where you just had it.
But it could be 108, because that would be 212.
Mm-hmm.
212 would mean that we've got 68.
Well, I also don't know if did you do this perfectly with like a ruler. So I mean, it could just seem bigger.
I did this on a I used paint.
So it could be a little off, right?
Yeah, my image could be slightly off.
Yeah.
I just did it sort of,
Mm-hmm.
In a way that in a way that basically makes sense to me, and it looked right. But I'm all about sort of doing it as organically as possible.
Because I think whenever you have this sort of triangle, that's 1, 1, and I think 5 at the bottom is how he had it. 1, 1, and 5. When you intersect these types of triangles, you're always going to get that 108.
That's quite interesting, and I think there's a lot to be unpacked there.
Yeah, and he even has it at the top of that PDF where he has the 1, 1, 5 at the bottom, and then he like cuts the triangle makes it an isosceles, I believe. The angle's 36, 36, 108 at the top. Yeah, so I mean, this should have. I think it's going to be like a constant pretty much when it's done precisely.
Wow. What an idea, huh?
And then obviously if you're doing the Enneagram and you're doing more kind of divisions in it, it may be like a multiple of 108 that eventually, when you add them up, it becomes 108, depending where on the Enneagram it is.
That is so strange. Because I thought I did some math where I did all the calculations, and I shared it to the Third Eye Edifice group in a conversation. And seems like I can't seem to find it, which is very strange. I thought I had shared it here. Maybe I didn't. That's so weird. Oh no, I did. So if I look at this for a moment, I'm seeing there. I broke down the math here quite beautifully, because I started having a conversation with Georgia about it. And of course, Georgia, you know what he's like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's like coming up with the musical equivalents. I'm like, dude, you're blowing my mind. I didn't even know that about, because I don't know much about music theory, but he brings out the music theory elements into play. Shout out to George, Third Eye Edifice. Go and check him out. He's really cool. He's doing a lot of cool work, breaking down pretty much the same stuff we're breaking down, but he's coming from the perspective of music theory, which is very poignant. And he's also openly looking at the history of music and just how we've been deceived, how what we've got as music now isn't, what it used to be, and why it's changed, how it's changed. It's really interesting.
Popping again, brother. Sorry about that.
Sorry?
You just were popping again. Sorry.
Why am I popping?
I don't know.
I wonder why.
Maybe it's your beard when it gets close to the mic sometimes. I don't know. Is static. It could be static.
Let me go and check my sound settings quickly and test it and see what's going on here. So if I put off installation, is that better?
Talk again.
Does that sound better?
Yeah, I hear myself echoing in the background a little bit on your end, but aside from that, it does sound a lot better.
How's that sound? Better?
Let me hear myself. Oh yeah, much better. Perfect.
So now there's no weirdness, huh?
Yeah, all better. All better.
It's that blooming StreamYard, man.
That's why, dude, ever since you told me to stop using it, I stopped using all the auto features, and my mic seems to be good now.
Ay. What a butt pain. Anyway, they're supposed to be helping us. They're not doing us any good. Maybe that's designed if you're using a laptop or a phone.
Might change. Yeah, I feel like the phone probably helps the most.
Like that's those features. Maybe it's not built for people who've got mics because the mic gives too much.
Exactly.
Sound.
It's too much. Yeah. I think you're right.
So I'm loud enough. Yeah, I'm loud and clear.
Dude, you're perfect.
Okay.
Now it's perfect. Yeah, there's no distortion at all.
Yes, I think you brought some really interesting points to the table when we're looking at the work that Ken Wheel has done, and I like that diagram that you showed us here as well, because it depicts beautifully this idea of the monad becoming the phi. The relationship of phi, yeah. So I hope we can all see this image, yeah.
Oh, right now you're not sharing screen. Oh, there you go.
There we go. So
go to the top one too. The top one is super in the top triangle on the first page. That right there, if you really start to look at what he did, it's like, oh, okay, so 1 plus 1 over phi equals phi, and that makes total sense. Because 1 over phi is 0.61 blah, 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 and phi is 1.61 blah, 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 blah. So you get the 1 plus 1 over phi equals phi, and that's the 1 to 1 to phi triangle. And this is what he calls the most perfect proportional triangle.
Can you see what he's got there?
You might have to zoom a little bit on it for people. I don't know, depending on how big their screen is.
Just if you really look at what it is.
There you go.
Right. So if we really look at this triangle is the same as this triangle. The big triangle. Sorry. So this triangle here, right, is basically the same triangle here. It's just a smaller version of it. So this angle is 108. I don't know if you can see my mouse. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
This angle is 108. This angle is 72. This angle is 108. And if we continue this line over of the pentagram, this number is 72. So this is another pentagram, but this pentagram is leaning over. So the apex of the pentagram is where my mouse is. That's the apex of the
Because now,
the apex of the pentagram is where my mouse is.
Because now, if you look at this triangle, then go back down to that one on the bottom left, you'll see that, those are the same triangles. There's just multiple. Keep going lower, the second page.
Yeah, exactly.
You could see that there's multiple triangles placed in that pentagram.
No, exactly. And so this now then becomes a pentagram when you take this triangle and you draw that line from there to there. If you can see my mouse, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
From there to there. Then the apex of this pentagram is here. But it's a smaller pentagram.
Yeah.
So the apex of that pentagram is there. And it then that line becomes the arms. Does that make sense? So that line that goes like that makes another pentagram. I'm not describing that. I'm not saying what I'm trying to say very well. But what I'm getting at is that this is the same triangle as the big triangle, right?
I believe, well,
exact same mathematics.
Is it the same? Well, it is, because it's the big one is 1 to 1 over phi at the bottom. Now is the smaller one 1 over phi? So it's slightly different.
Only from the perspective of the big triangle, but this angle is 108.
But the angles should be, I think, the same. But just that
this
side.
Angle is 108, and this angle is then got to be 36, right?
Yeah, that angle is 36. The top one would be.
So
would it be
this
70?
angle is 36. This angle is 36.
Yeah.
Right? This angle is 108. This angle is 108. This angle is the same angle as this angle, which is 36, which is the same angle as this angle, which is 36.
There you go.
So then if you were to take this angle and rotate it towards the right, and have it standing up and then remove the big triangle, you could do the same process again with a smaller triangle.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd have the same thing. And then you can remove the bigger triangle and you can rotate it again and you have the same process with a smaller triangle. It's a fractal.
Yeah. There you go.
It's basically what it is. It's what it seems like, seems to be suggesting. So it's very interesting. I mean, it's rather fascinating, really, when we get down to the maths of it. Oh, hold on. I actually wanted to show you this. So another thing that's being reflected here, which is rather interesting, is this relationship of the monad and the presence of the monad being experienced. That's what he's calling it mind. I wouldn't call it mind. I would call it thought. But regardless, I'm just really fussy about my words. And what he's calling magnitude, I would call potential. And what he's calling matter, I would call form. And what he calls man, I would call consciousness. But that is man. Man is the extension of consciousness. So this is really interesting how this 5 then becomes that which is the adventure, or that which is the narrative, that which is the going off on this proverbial journey of the fool, which is mankind. It's just beautiful the way these numbers compound upon themselves, and it seems like this ratio is what he's hinting at with these triangles, right?
Yeah, because you could see it's, I believe, what is it? So the 1 is 1 over phi to the negative 3. The many is 1 over phi. And in life, he has his phi, which that all relates to these triangles.
Exactly. This is it. So we've got the same ratios being expressed here, which is quite interesting when you think about it.
Yeah.
So he's showing you that the connection of the macrocosm and the microcosm is the microcosm being connected to the macrocosm. But the microcosm is a reflection of the macrocosm and fits in to the macrocosm to be a part of the macrocosm, while being a perfect reflection of the macrocosm in its own divine proportions, reflecting the same divine proportions in its own octave, if that's a okay way to say it, even though I'm not probably choosing my words so very well. It's just beautiful. This is what it is about the Enneagram that made me want to change the way it's represented, because that picture really bugs me, man. Does it not bug you?
Which one?
This one. The typical Enneagram, the way it's presented, this picture winds me up, man. It really winds me up. Like, it probably shouldn't wind me up as much as it does, but it just does. I find it annoying. And like I keep looking at it and I keep thinking to myself, there's something really annoying about this picture. And here it is. And what annoys me about this picture is how everything's disconnected to the origin. And only the 3, 6, 9 are an expression of the origin. But then they're suggesting that the 5, the 4, the 2, the 1, the 8 are not extensions of the origin. But the 5 is actually the most important part of the whole story. So 5, according to this image, has got nothing to do with the origin. It's just a inconsequential thing that just happens to be there. The only thing we're focusing on is the 3, 6, 9, where and this is quite interesting. Here, when we look at this model, we look at the first triangle. What is the first triangle? Yeah, it's 3, 6, 9, right? And that adds up to 18, 9. Then we look at the next triangle. It's 5, 8, 2. What does that add up to? 15. That's 6. First triangle, 9. Second triangle, 6. What's the next triangle add up to? 7, 1, 4. That's 12. That's 3. So we've got 3 triangles that add up to 9, 6, and 3. Then we've got the first fundamental triangle that reflects 3, 6, 9. So there's your 3, 6, 9 reflecting 3 cycles of 3, a macrocosmic expansion of 3, 6, 9 within a microcosmic expression of 3, 6, 9. Here, that concept of the smaller thing fitting into the bigger thing is being bound symbolically by the image. You don't have that in the other Enneagram. I think that's really important because it shows this relationship between 1 and 3, the way things fit into things, the way there's a microcosmic expression. And the other point about the other Enneagram that bugs me, and here they're all extensions of the origin. All the numerations.
See, I feel like, because there are other, here, let me show you this one. When I see ones like this, I'm just like, why don't they just do this every time and connect all the, why don't they just connect the whole entire thing? Like all these numbers, like you're saying, why are there connections missing on some of them? And some of them don't have it missing, which makes me think that maybe, here, I'll just show you one that I found that doesn't have it missing. Like, this seems to connect every single point. That's
correct. That's a correct Enneagram.
Now there's, if you look through it, like, I mean, even this seems to add, wait, I'm not on, share this tab instead. Can
that
you see
Enneagram
this?
Could we put that one back on again?
Yeah. I was just showing even this seems to have more connections in it. There's another one that I was seeing.
If you put that one back on, I've got, I'd love to look at it for a second because I think it's quite, can you zoom into it or expand upon it?
Hold on a second. Let me move this over here. And let me see what you guys are seeing over there. Oh, wait. What page are y'all on? Here, let me share this tab instead. There you go. Better, right? There you go.
There we go. Now, when we look at this, this is really interesting. So what have we got here? So here we've got the star. So we've got the 3 stars here, and there we've got the other enneagram. So we've got both the enneagrams. The only thing that they've added here that isn't present is they've showed radial connections. They've shown the opposition between 3 and 7. They've shown how 7 and 2 are a connection, which is relevant because the presence of 2, which represents the Jimal, not Jimal, the tarot representation of Jimal, which is the high priestess in its mystic form, is connected, but this is a mystical connection, a mystic version of a mystic thing connecting with an actual thing, which is a very, I call that a tertiary relevance, but it's still relevant. Yeah, they've just added in all the, so they've taken the enneagram that I'm using, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they've just added in the other tertiary and secondary connections.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So there are versions of it out there where they do this. I don't know why some do and why some don't. It just seems to be based on what they're trying to do it for.
What is this? What enneagram is this?
So this is the...
This is not the enneagram that we know as the 9 personality version. This is something else, isn't it?
It's a tri-type enneagram by this woman down in the lower right-hand corner, Catherine Chernick Favre. Not sure exactly how you say it. I just found it in the pictures when I was looking up the enneagram. I mean, there's this type, which is another one based on personality types where they seem to have filled it out at least a little bit more.
Yeah.
So there's just a few different ways, like where they seem to do it, and then where they seem to fill it out, and they're not.
This is different personality types.
Yeah, and like instead of just using the Volkswagen sort of symbol, which is, oh god, they won't let me even look at that one. But you can kind of see that Volkswagen-y, let's see this on Shutter. See, this is like the Volkswagen-y sort of connections that you usually will get. This is actually less than you usually will even get. But this seems to be what kind of it's based off of, and then they added a couple. Basically. Yeah.
Yeah. You go back to the last one you just showed there a minute ago.
Yeah.
That woman's one. The woman's one.
The fullest one, right?
No, the one that you showed just before the Volkswagen.
Okay, yeah.
The one with the woman, which had the 3 triangle version.
Yeah, sure. Hold on 1 second. Share screen, and we're gonna do. Okay.
Like that's quite interesting. Like if we look at this, and I find this really fascinating. And I this is something that I find it. So they say the good person is 1.
Yeah,
the good person.
Yeah, it's a weird.
No, it's all good. The loving person is 2. Now, the number 2 represents the moon, represents childbirth, represents empathy. Empathy is that fundamental quality that brings the nurturing potential that we can call a loving person into being. So if you're looking at fundamentally what 2 represents, it represents empathy, right? Because empathy is what makes you a good person.
Yeah.
No? What makes you a loving person? Sorry. Now they talk about the good person. I relate 1 to egocentricity, right? And the egocentricity is the leader. So, like, who do we follow? Who do we follow in life? We would hope to follow the person who's taking us in the right direction, right? We want to follow the good person, the person whose ego we can trust. So egocentricity and being a good person, this is like there's some kind of a connection here.
By the way, 3. I think Silas is about to hop in with us for a little. I may have to bounce, but if you want to keep him on for another.
Where is Silas? Is he here?
He's about to, I think, join the room. Yeah.
I haven't seen him yet.
I think he said he's going to hop in. He's going to hop in a minute, so just keep your eye out.
Cool, man. So I think like it's very interesting when we look at these particular perspectives here, and these are all sort of taken from the other one, which there's some relevancy in it. But do you see what I mean when I talk about primary and secondary and tertiary concepts?
Yeah, yeah.
It's everything about this. Just it's not specifically wrong. It's just not looking at the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
The powerful person. Like,
and obviously with these titles, I think you're getting someone who's doing a really basic form of personality types that I'm guessing they're using for like some sort of probably going to companies or even schools and trying to teach. Like, this kind of seems like a really, just the way they've labeled it makes me think they're teaching maybe middle school, high school kids.
And the loyal person of 6. Do you know why 6 is considered loyal? Do you know where they got the loyalist from? So if you look at Venus has got 2 potentials. Venus has got Taurus and Venus has got Libra. Libra rules over relationships, and what is required to maintain a relationship is loyalty.
Okay.
Otherwise, it can be no relationship. But that is just one potential extension of the number 6. It isn't the subtotality of the number 6. It's one polarized version of the number 6. So 6 does relate to loyalty, but 6 is more than loyalty in a sense. And that loyalty is an expression of Venus, but the masculine side of Venus, not the feminine side of Venus. Feminine side of Venus is all about gratifying pleasure and being a foundational, like Taurus. So, but between the foundational gratification of pleasure and the loyalty to the outside, you find that construction of harmony. You know, so it's just very interesting, like the way all of these things are sort of brought into being, and it's all of these little things that just started working on my consciousness that made me start thinking, you know, there's got to be more. And I think as well, the tarot, to really put the tarot onto the map is going to be a really exciting adventure, because the way the tarot has been mapped onto the other one seems like it's higgledy-piggledy. It's all just sort of broken up and stuck on where it fits. Here we've got an actual tarot that can expand. You know,
Silas.
Namaste, dear brother. How are you, Silas? I hope you're good. For those of you who don't know Silas, check out his channel. It's in the recommended channels. Silas Speaks at Silas Speaks.
Silas Speaks 3301 because he is a cicada operative. No, I'm just kidding. I think he just was fascinated with the cicada thing when it came out. He could tell you the story.
Hello. Sorry, my headphones were off just then, so I totally missed all of that.
Oh, I was saying how you're a cicada operative. That's why you have the cicada 3301 numbers at the end of Silas Speaks. No, I told them that's what I think first got you into a lot of this stuff, right? Was the cicada op?
Yeah. So I was going on I can't even forget the radio show now, but they asked me about cicada 3301 and its link with Kabbalah. And I was looking into cicada 3301 anyway.
There you go.
And I was just interested by it, and that's how, that's how I got into the Kabbalah and the occult and the esoteric.
Whatever happened with that? Was that did that wind up being an intelligence recruitment tool, or was it something different that we don't really know?
I've got a lot of notes on it because I put a lot of notes together for that radio show, and to me, it appeared to be some form of sort of, pre-event 2020, should we say, recruitment tool. I think it was probably for, network managers and other IT specialists for, well, perhaps whatever event 2020 was for. But there was a lot of symbolism in it, a lot of symbolism.
Oh yeah,
throughout cicada 3301. I mean, even the cicada itself is obviously linked to it's linked to the sun through, I believe it's it's linked to the star tarot card, because I believe it's 17 years that it hibernates, if I recall. And then you have even the cicada itself with the cocoons itself. It emerges from the darkness, so you have this sort of death and resurrection motif as well.
I mean, that ties into everything we've been talking about, because we were talking about divine proportion and basic. And Franklin's kind of redoing the Enneagram on his end, so we brought in some of that. And we were looking at Ken Wheeler's work as well.
Oh yeah, Ken Wheeler, yeah.
You mentioned the cicada, man. Gosh, cicada. You gotta love the cicada. Cicadas are just so cool. Yeah, we've got a lot of cicadas where I live. And maybe I can find you a picture of a cicada. Wouldn't that be cool? Let's see if I can track that picture down, because I managed to actually find a cicada and get a photograph of him, because you don't normally find them. I don't know if you've noticed.
Well, I mean, we only get them every 7 to however many years, 7 to 17, I guess, is the cycle I'm getting for various different types of them.
Yeah, it's something like that. I forget the actual numbers now, but I remember looking into it. It was quite interesting. There was a lot of interconnections between that and the occult. Even 3301, I believe, it's a prime number, but I forget the number in terms of in terms of the sequence of prime numbers where that comes in. But I think it's the 33rd prime number between 3,000 and 4,000, if I recall correctly.
And I think 331 might be the 33rd, but I'm not positive, because my birthday is 331, and I think that's why I think I know that. But I might be wrong.
331, huh?
Yeah, it just happened. It was like yesterday or 2 days ago.
Oh my gosh.
Which we
Happy
don't need.
birthday, brother.
We don't need to talk about it. It's fine.
No.
Birthday, man.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh man.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear brother.
birthday,
I
dear.
am such a Nimrod. I can't believe I didn't know your birthday, man.
I'm finally
So when was your
18.
birthday? What day was it?
March 31st, so 331. I think it is the 33rd. Nah, maybe it's
Sunday.
not.
Sunday
yeah.
was your birthday.
No, Monday.
You can finally get a pint at the pub.
Yeah,
Monday.
I'm finally 21.
Wow. So what did you do?
Oh man, I got back in like literally the night before from New Jersey, so I just hung out with the girlfriend, and she just had some stuff for me. That was it. Just a relaxing.
Okay. Not parental guidance conversation. I get it. No, well, good for you. Like, the family is what it's about. Like, my birthdays, I don't like to have a big thing. I like to just chill. I actually like to just introspect. Actually, I don't like being around too many people, because I can't introspect. Then it's very weird. People always used to say, like, why don't you make a big deal out of your birthday? I was like, no. Like, I used to, on my birthday, it's my day, it's my birthday, screw you all. I'm going on the mountain on my own. Like, so that I can just sit and think, like, okay, like, where the hell am I? Like, what have I done this year? Where is this year brought me? Where is next year? It's like, it's a micro new year.
It is in many ways, yeah. I'm similar on my birthday. I don't really like to be annoyed by anyone. Just take the time to chill.
When's your birthday?
Oh, my birthday will be in 2 days.
Happy birthday.
Oh wait, Silas, yours is coming up too? I didn't know that.
Yeah, man.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
Jesus.
Good thing I had a feeling.
So
we
you're
got 2 Marches.
so you're Aries too then.
I am, yeah.
So me and you, that's no wonder we get along so well.
Yeah, mine's the 1st of August, so I've got a little while to go. But yeah, so that's cool, man. So it's your birthday too. Wow, that's so cool. You guys should, like, I used to have a good friend whose birthday was on the 1st of August. He was my best friend.
Really? That's so
Yeah,
funny.
I mean, rest in peace. What an amazing guy. He's no longer with us. Truth is, and I should say it because it needs to be said, he was the guy who brought Peter Joseph to the UK. Peter Joseph, who made the first Zeitgeist movie, he was the guy who connected the dots between counter activism, which is like what I was. I was a counterculture, like I don't need your permission, screw you. It's all about civil disobedience. That's where I'm at. That's my form of activism. He was connected to this circle of the UK's activism, but he was also connected to organizations like Greenpeace and the official activists that are following the rules. So you get the activism that follows the rules and tries to go within the system and change the system. And then you get us lot that just go, no, screw that. We're going to get like, we're gonna organize a strike for these workers. Like we you know, and we're doing that like we don't need anybody's permission. And like, so what if the police are going to try and stop us from marching on the streets because we didn't get their permission? We don't need your permission to march on the streets. Screw you. You know, why should we need your permission? Then you get Greenpeace who will, no, we're going to have a march. Let's get document paperwork so we can have a march.
Yeah.
You know? So, but he was the bridge between these two forms of activism in the UK. And he was one of the most prolific activists in the UK. And he suddenly passed away out of the blue. And he was young.
That's wild.
He was 1 year younger than me. And he passed away in 2011. And it was all of a sudden, this thing just grew in the side of his head. Bizarre.
Yeah, that's
right?
weird.
Because he ate organic and biodynamic food. He was a vegan. He didn't smoke. He didn't drink. He didn't take toxins into his body. He was really conscious. Suddenly it came into his body. What the NHS, there was a story with the NHS. They wouldn't help him. And they kept sending him away. And he was on like a waiting list with the NHS, and they looked at him like 3 times. He'd been in contact with a number of doctors. And there was something around his passing that wasn't right. I helped arrange the funeral thing, and we had to keep it small because there were like thousands of people that wanted to come to his funeral because like he's the biggest activist in the UK. Everybody wants to be there. Everybody knows him. Everybody respects him. He's a sound dude. But it was just his family, his mom, small group of people. Only those of us that were like close friends were there, and that was just how it was because how his mom wanted it. And so anyway, the coroner, the what do you call him? Coroner? Is that right? Coroner. The coroner had something that he was withholding. And I spoke to the coroner. I said, listen, dude, please let me know. I promise I won't let it out. And there was a story about a foreign body in his head that there was this questions about. The coroner couldn't understand it. Didn't add up. And the coroner was like, no, he was actually scared. I sensed his fear. He was afraid to talk about it. I said to him, look, you know, I give you my word on integrity and honor, like whatever you tell me will be. I just need to know what's really happened. Because I had, so how I found him was one night I got drunk and I slipped into a trance. I went into our temple. We had a temple where we lived, where we did our sacred practices with a friend of mine, Antama, Anthony. Do you know Antama from the UK?
No, I don't know.
Okay, well, he's wrapped up in Vedic law. He's connected to the Amma ashrams. Anyway, we were living together, and we had a temple space. And one night that I got drunk, that was the one night I got drunk in like 10 years or 6 years or 8 years. I don't drink. And there was an Italian couple there, and I was cooking risotto, and they arrived. I was like, I make enough risotto for everybody. Come on in. They cranked open some wine. No, I had some wine. I cranked open some red wine. I had 2 bottles. Next thing, they drank it all. They went off, came back with a whole lot of bottles of wine. I don't know what happened, but I must have drank about like 2-3 bottles of red wine, which I don't normally do to myself. And I was blind drunk. And obviously he had a bit of the hydroponics and everything else as well. So I was, helicopter pilot's engineer. And I sat down in the temple and I went into a trance. And my ex-wife came in and I laughed. I felt, and they were spinning around me. And I laughed that put the fear of God into her. She knew me well. Obviously, we were married. So like me slipping into trance was a normal thing, but not when I was drunk. And I laughed out the loudest as I could. And I proclaimed that my closest friend in the world has just left this world. Because the spirits were flowing around me and they were talking to me and they were coming into my body. And so I had to shut the doors of my mind. I had to shut those doors and cut myself off from the spirit. And then I had the worst hangover ever the next day, and I was trying to get hold of my friend, and I couldn't get hold of him. And I was freaking out because I knew that this was about him, this premonition I had the night before. So I contacted his mother. I couldn't get hold of his mother. I had to contact my friend saying, listen, I'm afraid for my friend's life, Alex's life. I think he's dying. I think something's happening. I think he's died. Like, I really want to find him. I don't know what's happened. And everybody was like freaking out, like, what the hell? Where you get this from? I was like, yeah, well, it's a premonition. That's all it is. And some friends were like, oh, well, don't worry about it. This is Alex. Alex is the most logical, grounded sound. He was an engineer, man, for crying out loud, number 4. And so anyway, got to the point where I was like freaking out and said, listen, to his close circle of friends, the people who knew him, please, I can't find his mother's contact. I fell into a river on the Himalayas while climbing over 5,000 meters over the ice caves into a river. My bag got wet. I had all the things written down. I had lost that phone. That phone had gotten written off. And all of my paper contacts were lost, which is where I had his mother's phone number. So anyway, she sent it to me, a friend of ours, a mutual friend. And I called his mother. I said, look, yeah, I'm freaking out. I just want you to know, I want your blessing. I'm going to go to his flat and I'm going to kick the door down because I can't handle this. This was the next day already. And she was like, thank God that you've done this because haven't been able to sleep for 3 days. I said, yeah, me too. This is heavy. So anyway, I went to his house. And synchronicity, the moment I get there, 2 of our other friends who we've known like since 12, 15 years rock up at the same time, responding to the email that I'd sent. Because they freaked out, so they came to his house to see what was going on in his flat. And as I arrived, they arrived. Like, we literally get there at the same moment, which is synchronicity. And I explained to them, I'm going to go and kick that door down. And they go, hold on. Like, why? And I said, look, he's in there and he's not alive. I need to see with my own eyes. They were like, well, it will be a crime scene. Why don't you call the cops? I thought about it. So I called the cops. They were there within like a few minutes because I basically explained to them that I think there's somebody not alive. If they're not alive, they're on their way out, but they're probably not alive. So anyway, obviously the cop gets it. Like, why? It's like, it's a premonition. I can't say that. So I have to explain, like, look, there's enough of his family. I've spoken to his mom. We're all worried about him. That's what it is. So anyway, the cop kicks the door in and he's there. Now, on the way there, I'm having a telepathic argument with him because I've connected with him the day before. And he's explaining to me that he can't get into his body. I'm like, dude, go into that body. And he's like, I can't go in. It's broken. So anyway, we get there and I'm having this communication with him all the way to his flat where I'm talking to him because I've gone into a deep trance prior to this. No, I'm unalive. Go away. That's my little boy coming to knock on the door. He knows I'm busy. Cheeky little bugger. And so anyway, he's with me. He spends a couple of days with me. And I know there's this being here with us. And this being I know from my childhood. These were the things that used to hunt me when I was young. And it's watching. It's there for him. And I'm not too fussed by this being, but I'm like, you the guys used to look for me when I was a child. My leprechaun used to protect me from you guys. Like a big kind of a thing on the energetic plane, or like an astral plane thing. It's like a black it's like a big black kind of a cat creature. And sorry, just need to get my breath. Thinking about Alex makes me feel a bit emotional. And
no worries, dude.
So I become one with this creature, and I drill into its mind. I need to see. So I go into a deep meditative zone, and I go into a trance. And in my trance, I come out of my body, and I'm facing this creature. And I face this creature, and I go into that point of 4, which is like crystallization. And I crystallize this intent and this point of focus between me and this creature. And I'm sitting like this for a few hours. And I notice something weird. While I'm sitting, I'm noticing, hold on, something of this creature just fell off. And now it's weaker. That's weird. And I'm sitting and something of this creature fell off. And it's weaker. And now it's like its mask is like wavering. I'm like, what am I facing here? And I'm facing this creature, and then another thing falls off, and that thing that falls off, I get the image of like an office, or not an office, but in someone's home, like wood and expensive room, and somebody really well dressed, but wearing like a black thing. And I'm like, that black thing is like my headmasters used to wear in school. We were like masons and stuff. Okay, so I'm just intrigued. But every time something falls off of this group, the group's wavering. And I notice now I'm sitting here with a group of people, and I'm focusing on like, I want to know what's going on, what's happened here. And they're falling off one by one until this thing is so weak that it can't hold its form anymore. And it's starting to try and waver on the energetic plane. And I realize this is a construct that has been put together by a group of magicians doing a ritual together. And they are using this ritualistic thing to project their consciousness here to watch my friend. I'm like, well, what business do you have here with my friend? And so I sit in my focus until this thing can't be there anymore, and it pops out and it's gone. It can't. And I observed like, okay, so you people haven't got a real experience of meditation, because within 4 hours, none of you could concentrate that long. Your concentration thresholds are not 4 hours or beyond. So, but you've trained in meditation because you've got thresholds of 2 to 3 hours between you guys. So most of you guys have got experience of being able to sit and focus for like hours, but then your mind gets tired and you reach your bandwidth and you got to tap out. So I'm communing with him. I'm like, what is going on? But he's not his physical self. He's not that egoic persona. He's like an enlightened being, and he's like giving me lessons, whiplash. I'm like, oh gosh, you're humbling me. They become like your ancestor, your guru. They join your lineage of and they like whipping you, like, this is where you're going wrong, this is what you should be doing, this is what your focus is, da, 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 da. And I'm getting like lessons from him, and I keep wanting to know what happened. He's like, it's not for you to know. It's not for you to know. As if like, I know you too well. It's not for you to know. You're not going to go and cause a wave. And he keeps showing me his mother. And so I realized I had to let it go, because like his mother didn't need to know the truth. But he didn't pass from this world of natural causes. There were people outside his house using some kind of technology that they pointed at him to cause this thing in his ear to happen. Like some kind of a emitter.
Yeah.
He was removed because of his activism, because he was such a major proponent of UK activism, and he was major. He was in every organization. He was connected. He was what connected the counterculture. This was why I became an activist. When he passed, there was such a big vacuum left in the activist world. I was like, he's got so much work undone. I'm going to step in. I'm going to do that work, and I'm going to create something that would have, so that power vacuum that he's left can be filled by other activists. But he didn't pass of natural causes. So anyway, sorry I got sidetracked to this story, but I think
rough story,
it
man.
was relevant at the beginning.
But yeah, no, absolutely.
What were we talking about before I got into that? I think it was somehow
we were talking about Cicada 3301 a little bit.
Same vibration. We used to celebrate together on the same day. Your vibrations
the birthday
hold
stuff,
these numbers, and these numbers show the shape of your etheric body. And my etheric body and his etheric body were very similar. Very, very, very similar. So we had a very similar vibrational frequency. And like we even had a similar sort of like, you know, beards and dreads and everything. We even, you know, there was a lot of similarity between us. It's just very interesting how you guys are in this resonant frequency and how you guys connect so well.
I actually didn't know that our birthday was so close. I don't know if Silas even knew that. And we've been friends since like 2020.
No, I didn't know that at all, no.
So it's hilarious. Makes sense.
Yeah.
We're going to have to talk later on, Silas. You have to tell me. I think I know the year, but you have to tell me the year. I'll put it in my one of my apps and look at our alignments and shit.
You're the 6th.
Right, yeah.
What'd you say?
Silas, you're the 6th of April or the 7th?
No, the 4th.
4th.
Oh, the 4th of April. Okay, sorry. Yeah. 4th of April. What am I saying? 6th. So the 4th and the 31st. You see the numbers?
Yeah.
31, 4.
Yep.
So the number of your day is very
By
similar.
the way, 331 isn't the 33rd prime. It's the 67th. So I was way off.
Close enough.
Yeah. But
well, it's lovely to have you, dear Sila. And we've been talking about divine
unfortunately,
proportions.
we're over a little over 2 hours, and I'm going to have to dip out. So I don't know if you guys want to keep chatting for a little bit. If you have any time, Franklin, or if you do, Silas.
I'm going to have to head out. I'm going to have to do a spot of shopping.
Next week, you got to come on. If you can, come on when we start.
I'll be off college then, so it's been pretty hectic. It's always hectic coming up to the holidays because for some particular reason the lecturers just want to cram all the assessments in like 2 weeks before the semester ends, and it's always quite annoying.
What are you studying right now?
Commercial management and quantity surveying, so lots and lots of numbers. It's quite soul destroying actually.
Are you mostly just trying to finish and get your degree right now?
Pretty much, yeah. Well, I'm finishing to get the national degree, and then I'm off to university for a couple of years, and then that's it.
Yeah, because they almost screwed him with when the lockdowns and stuff happened because he didn't get he had to stop for a while, or he would already be done with school.
Yeah, I would have already been done. Yeah,
so friggin' insane, man.
Yeah, I had to. I was just going to jump straight to university and go into second year, but unfortunately, at the college as well, you had to get twice weekly tested, plus obviously jibber jabbied. So yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't willing to go ahead with that.
So messed up, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, man, that's heavy. Heavy. A lot of people suffered a lot. I was so lucky because I was here, Simonstown, Seaforth. So I had like the sea across the road, penguin sanctuary here, and didn't have to go anywhere. I was like, I'm happy not going anywhere. Why would I want to go?
With me, it was just work was rough because there was no one who wanted to hire out here. Anyone who didn't get their jab. So I was like, I'll go working on the East Coast and F you motherfuckers. I never got it. Obviously.
My son is 8 and he's going to turn 9. He doesn't know what a needle looks like because he's never been to a doctor.
Dude, the more they're coming out with about all these vaccines, man, the more insane it seems to, to give them to.
Do you know what's interesting as well? See, in the US, just before I head off, in the US, they only started really ramping up the sort of obligatory schedule of vaccines for children after, I believe it was the federal government that passed a piece of legislation. I think it was Reagan. And basically it provided the vaccine or the pharmaceutical companies a complete and utter
amnesty, right? For
amnesty,
any,
yes.
For any vaccine when it
Impunity.
made it onto the childhood schedule.
Yes,
Or
yes.
the baby, whatever it is, the infant schedule, which they put COVID on now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're good.
Which technically it's a sort of state of emergency or emergency authorization when they do that.
Yeah.
So
it's insane that they're still allowing this at this point too. But
oh yeah, it's. I mean, it's totally insane that the governments still have anyone looks at them as having any credibility at all. It's it's quite something.
Yeah. It's like it's insane. It's all so insane. Did Franklin dip out?
I think he did. I think he's back.
Oh, there he's back.
I changed my internet connections, one broadband to another.
But yeah, we were just saying it's insane the way that all they're still haven't taken the COVID thing off of the child, the infant registry now. So
they've tried to ramp it up here too. The secret for those of you would-be parents. So
just saying
my child was born in a hospital, and then I left the hospital, and I never ever took him for that first visit they suggested.
Yeah. And the thing is
You're
now
supposed to take your child back for the hospital when they
the childhood schedule too is
Don't
like
do
they
it.
recommend 3 COVID shots, not even just 1, 3. It's insane.
They wanted to vaccinate him in the hospital when he was newborn. Do you know that?
Yeah, fuck.
Oh yeah, they do the same here. We have
They wanted to do that.
The way you're describing it, it's the same here.
And they said no, it's compulsory. But I had a lawyer on fast dial, and I said to him, "Okay."
Here, I think that they're not compulsory, right?
Now. I've got a lawyer on fast dial. I'm going to phone my lawyer, but I'm going to wait 10 minutes to go and speak to the doctor. The nurse went to speak to the doctor, came back and said, "Oh, sorry, sir. The doctor said it's not compulsory." But we were taught that it was compulsory. So the nurses are taught that it's compulsory for people to have vaccinations for their children when they like in the hospital. However, when you contest it and say, "I've got a lawyer on fast dial, get the doctor to talk to me before I phone the lawyer because it's going to start costing money and I'm going to sue you. So get the lawyer here, get the doctor here." Then the doctor quickly says, no, go and tell them they don't have to. Then the nurse is there scratching their head going, we tell everybody they have to because we thought it's compulsory. Apparently it's not. The nurses were really confused. So don't believe what they tell you, because understand that the complacency of the people working there is used against them, and they don't know. The nurses are told to do things that are unconstitutional, and if they get caught doing it, then it's their mistake and they have to take responsibility for their error. And the people who taught them to do it will say, no, it's your mistake. So don't believe what they say. I never took him back. He's never been sick. He's never been to a doctor because he's never needed a doctor because he's never been sick.
And I'm quite sure none of them are compulsory out here. I think. I don't think any of them are. I think maybe if you need them for schools, they might be, but F that. Just homeschool them at that point. Like, forget this. It's nonsense. Like, why are you going to make your kids sick?
Yeah. But they're trying to make people believe that they have to do it. It's subtle.
Yeah. And they don't. They don't. So
yeah,
everyone remember that.
It's like, people believe that they have to get a document to get a borehole pump, right? Because they want you to. But as far as I know, the law didn't change yet. So if you get a borehole pump, so I was getting a well point put into my property, and the well point people were under the impression that they had to. So I just took a piece of pipe and stuck it in the ground, took a photo of the piece of pipe in the ground, sent it to the guy who's doing the well point, right? And said it's an existing well, we need it serviced. They came there, they dug a new well point. I pulled the pipe out of the ground. They looked at me. I said, we need it done. So they were there. They did the work, never got the permission. So these little like loopholes in the law is really interesting. I don't know what it's like for you, Silas, where you are, but it's pretty.
I think Silas just had to dip out, actually.
It's you, dear brother, Chris.
But I'm gonna.
Well, God bless you, Chris.
But yeah, we'll
Good
have
luck.
to talk about this more next week because there's definitely a lot of freaking stuff going on with this. We could bring some of this back into the convo.
I realize now it's 2 hours and 19 minutes. I got to go and check in on my boy and do shopping and all the chores and work and clients. It's been absolutely great. It's been lovely. Thank you,
You too, brother. You too.
joining us.
I'm trying to
God
change
bless
this
you.
to my studio camera, just OUS webcam, just so I could say goodbye on camera here. Maybe it's not going to work.
Well, thank
There
you
we
all
go.
that's been in the chat. Thank you, dear brother Chris. I hope you enjoy your day. Love to you, and
too,
your
brother.
girlfriend.
You too.
Sorry I missed your B-day.
Oh, don't worry about it. Trust me,
And,
I never like to celebrate it anyways. I like thinking in my mind that I never age.
Now
Like
I know.
Dorian Gray.
Now I got your number, dude. You'll just keep your eyes open for the billboards. Much love. Big blessings
Much love,
to you.
brother. Much
Blessings
love,
to
everyone. Thank you
everybody.
for joining us tonight. It was a good time, as always.
God bless you, man. Take it easy.
I'll
Much
talk
love.
to you soon. Much love, brother.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you all. Hope you all got what you came for. Enjoy the day, the week, the month. Keep smiling. Om Shanti.